It's a holiday often called the Black 4th of July. It's celebrated with cookouts, festivals, historical reenactments, and it's one of the most important days in African American history. Juneteenth celebrates the end of slavery in the United States. You see, the U.S. Declaration of Independence stated that all men were created equal, but this didn't apply to black slaves. The move to end slavery didn't happen until Abraham Lincoln issued a law in 1863, almost 100 years later. But the news took more than 2 years to reach all parts of the country. The state of Texas was the last to find out. On June 19, 1865, 250,000 slaves were freed in Texas, marking independence for all Americans.
We've all been hurt at some point, even abandoned. Many of us have done the hurting ourselves. We get to the point where we don't trust anyone, nor do we feel worthy of being loved by anyone. Then there's that one person who just doesn't give up on loving you. Their love is unconditional. Their love stays long enough for you to heal. And then they promise to never leave. That's love you can count on. God's love.
Hey everybody, this is Dr. David Evans, the president of PIC TV Network. We are so happy for all of our guests watching with us on our brand new talk show that we have. And tonight is a special night that we're going to be talking about reconnecting the generations. Yep, reconnecting the generations. And we want to say hello again to all of our guests watching on the PIC TV Network from Brazil, France, Argentina, Nicaragua, United States, Colombia. Rob is in the house today.
No doubt, no doubt.
Mexico, Guatemala, United Kingdom. We got Allison in from London, England, Germany, Panama, Ireland, Peru, Chile, Canada, and the rest of the world, Mr. Campbell. We want to thank you for tuning in, everybody. Those who are watching on YouTube, get your chats ready. We got you to chat in for us. We see all your chats go popping in. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and we also coming to Alexa. Yeah, we're going to be one of the first television networks that's tapping in with Alexa. And we're excited about all of you who are watching right now. This is a special, special subject that we're going to get into it, and let's get into it right now. Reconnecting the generations. You know, I believe that there has been a disconnect in the generations because of so much that's going on in our world today. There's been a disconnect. You know, the social media is good and bad. It's good because we're connecting with people from TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all over the world. Clubhouse, that's a wonderful tool. But the sad part is that we're not in the presence of them like we used to do growing up. So we're going to talk about reconnecting the generation by getting you some information on the things that we learned growing up that we just don't see today a lot of. I'm going to start with Mr. Campbell, who's also the co-founder of the PIC TV Network, which we are on now. Mr. Campbell, I want you to talk about, man, some of the values growing up that, you know, your mother instilling, your dad instilling you, that it's important for you to stay connected with your family. You knew everybody growing up. You all were one. Give me the 10-year-old version or 10-year-old vision of Mr. Campbell. Come on.
Hey, Doc. Thank you so much, and I always appreciate you, man. Welcome to everyone that's tuning in, watching us. Thank you for taking the time out. And you know, as growing up, one of the key issues or key points that I like to highlight is the importance of family. You know, my mom was, I think that was her driving point, was make sure the family was together, make sure the family was connected, make sure the family knew each other. And, you know, once you're a family, there was no question, that's it, your family. So we did all that we could to make sure that we were spending time with cousins. We drove to Canada. We drove to Florida, and wherever family was, it was to connect with them, to see how they're doing. My mother's old school Jamaican, so she wanted to make sure that folks were taken care of. And so folks always had food. There were always some package, some barrel, some box. There's always something. You're always getting something, making sure that you're healthy, you're dressed, making sure that you're doing well. So the importance of family, just resonated with me throughout it still does throughout my entire life. And, family, it's not necessarily, your brother or sister. It's just those who have become your family. And, even in college, one of the things I used to do was I would go shopping, leave my door open. My best friend, my roommate, this girlfriend, his best friend, like we would just community would come to the house and folks would cook. We'd always have food because, being Caribbean, sometimes, hamburgers and French fries and, that type of Taco Tuesdays don't always do it for you. You want some home cooked meal. So we would come together, we would cook. There'd always be food there. We would always have some type of conversation about what we're going to do with our future, how we're going to, move on and do different things as we graduate. So there was that sense of community, that sense of belonging, that sense of family. It was planted in me at a very young, early stage, and it stays with me throughout. Because right now I'm doing the very same thing, passing the same message on to my son about how important it is to have family. And family, those people who will look out for you, take care of you, make sure you are fed, make sure you're covered and had shelter. So if we can just pass that message on of how do we come together, like what makes us family, how do we look out for each other, and resonate that message in our community so that we're just more aware of what's going on with each other. So if somebody don't pass away, who's your neighbor, and you don't know that they've been passed for 3 weeks and they just over there, rotting away. We have to do a better job of taking care of each other, looking out for each other, and as family, that community that is concerned, asking about each other, making sure folks are fed and comfortable and safe and healthy. That's what it all means. That's what instilled in me. That's what I'm passing on to my son. That's how I see my family, my friends who have now become part of my family.
Yeah, it's amazing. When you talk about that, Brother Campbell, man, I know how important it is for you to take care of your mom. She's up in age. You were talking about even bringing her back to the DMV area to take care of her. Your sisters are doing a great job in New Jersey, but you love your mom enough. I'm not going to put her in a nursing home. I'm not going to send her away anywhere. I'm going to do my best to communicate with my mom.
She's watching. Talking about she's up there in age. She come down to fight you, man. She old school Jamaican. They strong.
Yeah, man. You get those bean pies, man. It's all over, man. The beef jerkies, man. The beef jerkies, it's all over. I want to go to London, England, and I want to talk up to Allison for a second. Allison, growing up, you were even talking about this subject on last night in another setting. How is it important? Because Mr. Campbell was saying family, and now we're saying generation. It's family generation, because our subject tonight is reconnecting the generation. And I want to flip it back. I want to throw a curveball at you. Are we disconnected? Because our subject tonight is reconnecting. Are we disconnected with the generation? And then we're going to talk about how we can reconnect. Come on, Allison, talk to us. Go ahead, Allison.
Thank you, Dr. Evans. Are we disconnected? I believe we are, to a certain degree, disconnected. And it's interesting that you mentioned that, yes, I was having a very similar conversation on a different platform last night. And the question was posed, am I my brother's keeper? And what does that mean to you? And so it's interesting with what Ian had just said, because some of what came up was, am I my mother's brother's keeper? Some people said yes, and they equated it to their immediate blood family. Some people said yes and cast the net wider and said that I am my brother's keeper, not just those that are related to me, but those that look like me also. And I think to a certain degree that has been lost on this generation coming up, because that sense of community and family that we had growing up, that was instilled in us by our parents and by our grandparents, in making sure we knew who our excuse me, we knew who our aunts and uncles and cousins were. We knew who our grandparents were. Even if some of them had passed away, we still knew their journey. We still knew where they had come from and generations. I know things about my great grandmother who I've never met. And it's interesting because I was doing my hair the other day and I started to laugh and I said to my mother, considering I've never met my great grandmother, from what I've been told about her, apparently I've done my hair the exact same way she did. So you don't have to have family that's alive and living to have that connection. It's just the stories that are told and the culture that's also being handed down from generation to generation. We have lost a lot of that. And so for that reason, I do believe that the generations coming up, there is a disconnect there. For example, people like myself, I'm first generation British, and you'll be able to identify with this, Ian. So every Easter, my mum makes bun.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my mum got that recipe from my grandma. Now, if I don't learn it from my mum, that's it. It's gone.
Yeah.
It's dead. I'll have to rely on going to buy my bun every Easter. And excuse me, the same thing at Christmas. My mum bakes and she makes cake. Some people call it black cake, some people call it fruit cake. But if I don't learn how to do that, that's gone. And it doesn't even need to be things as complex as the Easter bun or the cake at Christmas. It could be something simple like cornmeal porridge, pea soup. It could just be a simple everyday dish. If we don't learn these things and pass them down, that's gone. And that was a way of former generations connecting and keeping that bond by teaching cultural things, and not just cultural things, by also teaching things, ethical things as well, how to behave to authority, and not necessarily to be a doormat and to be a person that doesn't question or challenge authority in the right setting. But if we look at those kinds of things and those kinds of values, and we see how a lot of the young people are now when it comes to authority, not necessarily the police, but just an elder. If an elder was to challenge them in the street because they're doing something that they shouldn't be doing, that the way that they want to like rail up and behave and be confrontational or combative, we could never, ever, we couldn't even have had the thought, much less to do it, you know? And so when I see those things, and I think that has come about because of a disconnect and us not instilling and making sure certain things were actually got registered and sunk in to the generations coming. And that really, those are really my thoughts on the disconnect. How can we get that back? That is an excellent, excellent question, because part of me is feeling and wondering, is it too late for some? That is a big concern and a big fear of mine. Is it too late for some? I believe that for some it's not too late, because we can make a start. We can at least try to speak to some of those. I was involved in mentoring programs some years ago. I got started in mentoring in 1996. And until I got involved in mentoring, I believed some of what the media propaganda was feeding me, that all youths are bad and they're all out there committing crimes and they're all underage parents or teenage parents and things like that. I got involved in mentoring and I realized that a lot of these young people, they are prepared to sit and to listen to us. A lot of these young people are craving guidance. They're craving structure. They're craving discipline. And that's why some of them get involved in gangs and things like that, because they get the structure and they get that sense of brotherhood and community and sisterhood in some of these gangs. Now, if we took the time to not buy into a lot of the media hype and propaganda about our young people, but take the time to one-on-one engage with them, then you would be surprised at how many of them are absolutely receptive to wanting to learn about their culture, to wanting to learn about values and things like that. So I don't believe it's too late for them all, but I do fear that there are some that we may not be able to reach.
That's amazing. The chats are blowing up on YouTube. People are chatting in from Facebook. I'm seeing all these chats. Now we're gonna put them up. Please keep chatting all over or wherever you are in Panama, Germany, France, Chile. Please keep sending your chats in. I want to go to Colombia and talk to Robert. I met him. He's a great brother of wisdom. Robert, talk about growing up, man. Give me the teenage version of Robert, the young version of Robert. What would you say? What would the teenage Robert say to the Robert today if you was young, man? And give us that, rewind the tape and give us the things that you learned from your parents and auntie and uncle growing up, knowing how family values were so important. And talk to us a little bit about that, Robert.
Dr. Evans, saludos a toda mi gente de Colombia, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, Mexico. Thank you, Dr. Evans, and a big shout out to all my peoples in Latin America and here in the U.S. So I grew up in Colombia as a little kid, and what I saw in Colombia was that the music, for example, was such that there was no old people music or young people music. The music was all one. We all danced salsa. We all danced merengue. So it was like a little boy, as a little kid, 6 years old, I would go to parties with my mom, and we'd go in there, and my mom would tell me, you got to shake everybody's hand before you put the coats away. So I would put the coat down, and I would go shake everyone's hand in the room, and that was a given. After that, my mom would say, hey, come and dance with me. And I would dance with my mom, and then her friends would say, oh, you dance nice. And so we all, the parties my mom and my aunts and my uncles did, which was basically every week, it was a party, it was a time to gather, and we would all dance, and then the kids would go out and play games, and then we come back and sweaty, and then start dancing again, and then the food would be luscious, great food. And I think also the grandparents were around. The grandparents were around, and they would interact. They would be kind, but they would scold us if we got out of hand. What wasn't unusual, and all the trips we took as a family. And we always took trips for a family. So it was Thanksgiving in the Bronx, New York. It was Thanksgiving in Cali, Colombia. It was Thanksgiving in Bogota. And we all as a group would go to one family member's house. And it's so funny because back then it would be like 10 or 12 of us would come in from our state and stay in someone's apartment in New York. And it was just like bodies all over the place, food everywhere, a lot of music, a lot of laughter, a lot of stories. We are the best storytellers. People of African descent, I think, are the best storytellers in the world. Our stories are so vibrant. You can smell it, you can hear, you can feel the stories that are told by our people. And I think that it's possible for us. It's possible for us to retake that. My family, for example, I've got a pair of twins and 3 older boys, and so we spend our money traveling. So whenever whenever there's a break, we go out and we go to a farm somewhere, or we go visit my aunt, who's 105 years old, and my aunt is my grandmother's sister, right? And my grandmother's younger sister. She's still alive, 105 years old, and she will tell my son and my daughter stories about when I was a kid, and it's amazing to me. I'm 54 years old, and my aunt is telling stories to my kids about when I was a kid, and I'm like, wow, I'm so fortunate to be able to. My kids are so fortunate. I have pictures. I take tons of pictures because I can't believe my kids are so fortunate. And they don't understand right now. They love their aunt and they think she's funny. But I think in the future, when they look back at those pictures, they'll be like, oh my God, how lucky were we to be with, to have the opportunity to spend with my father's grandmother, which is amazing.
And that's interesting that you say that, because
That's amazing.
when I think about it, it's one of those things where that's the thing. Your children have that, but the unfortunate thing is there's many that don't. And those are the ones, when I say I fear we may not be able to reach them all, those are the ones that I'm talking about. Those that don't have the deep roots, such as yourself, such as Ian and Dr. Evans. You do have a subset there that because we spoke earlier in part one, where you have some of these children that were raised by their parents as friends, so they never had that parental guidance. You have some that don't know their extended family, and you have some that unfortunately have fallen into that gang lifestyle. And how do we reach those young people that unfortunately it seems like almost like the untouchables, because the values that we had coming up, some of them through no fault of their own, because remember, a lot of these some children actually raise themselves, and then you do have others that they didn't raise themselves, but as Ian had said earlier, during this time the parents realized that they didn't like their children. So when you look at it and when you think about it, my heart really does go out to the children that don't have what we had coming up, because what we had coming up was a beautiful thing, and I miss it terribly, that extended family. I remember growing up, and there's a lady from the church I grew up with. She used to call me Titch when I was growing up, and then I stopped going to church for many years, and I went back in, and she said, hi. And she said, oh, I can't call you that anymore. You're grown. I'm like, no, I will forever be Titch to you. It's all good. Because that gave me that connection back to my childhood. And there's another gentleman from church. Sadly, he's passed away. And he used to call me Ali Button. And I remember he was ill before he passed. He was in the hospital. And I walked in and he's like, Ali Button. And he said the same thing. He says, oh, I can't call you that now because you're grown. And I remember saying, Brother Ellington, I will always and forever be Ali Button to you. Because again, that was that connection and that we had from those elders, and that respect and that love we had for them. And I just feel like some of that now in these generations is missing. And what do we do, and the thought process into how do we get that back? How do we reconnect with a lot of this generation that sadly didn't have what we had growing up?
Yeah, I think I'm going to ask that Brother Campbell come on. We had talked on several talk shows, and how this generation looks at the media, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Clubhouse, Facebook, Live Me, the #1 app with young people on that people don't even know about, Marco Polo. All of these apps are out, and then we have this image, Campbell, that everybody wants to be the next big famous star, and whether it's a rap star, whether it's a pop star, whether it's a sports star, and looking at them and not looking where we come from, a legacy of great people. You were even educating us on Juneteenth, that a lot of people never learned in school. Even myself, they never taught me that in elementary school, junior high school, even in college. You know, I'm still, things are unfolding for us. And when I talk to you, reconnecting this generation, somebody disconnected it. And I think it was intentional. When we hear about, you know, this fast paced world that we're in now, most of us lived before the internet hit. You know, we grew up where there was this family dinners. We knew everybody on the block, Miss Drummer, Miss Horag, Mr. Brown. We knew our phone numbers, 462-7457, growing up. We didn't have all these devices. But I want Brother Campbell to come on and talk about the images that we see in media. Everybody wants to be the next big star. And we want to have the big car, and we want to have the nicest, beautiful babes, or the finest guy out here. And if we keep looking at that, we're going to forget about who we are, where we come from. Because if we try to be everybody else, who's going to be you? Come on, Campbell, talk about it, sir.
Yeah, I'm going to, reflect on one television show that I've watched and like to watch. It's called Blue Bloods. And Blue Bloods have Tom Selleck as the police commissioner. It has Marky Mark, Donnie Wahlberg as I think it's Donnie Wahlberg as the hothead road cop. You know, he's not road, he's just a hothead, hot-tempered cop. And then there's the Sunday dinners that they have. I think it's Sunday dinners where the whole family comes together and sit around and they have Sunday dinners. So, you know, that image of no matter how bad of a cop Donnie Wahlberg is, he's still part of the family. And that is being perpetuated, that they still have these Sunday get together with the grandfather, the father, the son, the grandson, and then the great grand. And they always have a family image of what it is to be not black and how they live their life. So whatever show it is, it shows all the greatness that they do because it's their show. Whenever you look at black TV, you just see madness. You know, whether it's the news, no matter what you see of our folks, it's negative. And I love social media, but we need to understand that we need to own social media. We need to own media, because if we're not putting out our own message, then we are allowing other people to tell our story. And if they are telling our story, they're telling their version of what they want to be told, not what it is that how we see ourselves and how we tell our story. Rob said it best that you go to parties with your mom, your uncle, your cousin, because it was just family gatherings. And it was, every weekend in the summer, folks just get together, have food, there'd be music, dancing, and it was just a gathering. It's funny, being a lobbyist, doing government relations, African countries, Latin American countries, Caribbean countries do a terrible job telling their story. The United States is a great storyteller. And that's why we have people from everywhere in the world looking to come to the United States, because the United States sold itself on being the streets are paved with gold. There's a chicken in every pot. There's a white picket fence. There's a money tree in every backyard. So people are doing all they can to come here because they're told it's the land of opportunity. And if we're not telling our story, if we don't have a pick TV, if we're not the one that's telling the narrative, other people are going to tell our story. They're going to take the worst images and the worst of us and have them be our face, have them be our representative. Why is it that we don't have leaders in different areas? Why is it every black leader have to be a person who's of the cloth? No disrespect, Dr. Evans, but no matter what's going on, if it's a march, it's a man of the cloth. If there's legislation, it's clergy. If there's business development, the clergy. It's our leader is one or two people that is put up before us because we're not allowing our leaders to develop, to have their own platform, to come up and do the thing for the community. We don't have our own media. We don't have our own networks. We did not have a platform where people can come on and speak freely and be articulate. People can reflect on history and talk about the references, the reference points on how the media was used to paint a certain picture, how the media still is used to paint that particular picture. Why is it that if somebody gets into an accident or shot that is black, they talk about, well, you know, he was a bad guy in kindergarten because he was disruptive. Kindergarten, they go as far back as they could possibly go. And why are they keeping records on kids, you know, that far back? So as crazy as the story is, we don't get a fair shake because we're not in control of the message coming out. Juneteenth is coming up. We need to reach out to the folks that is in our community, keep our dollars inside of our community, buy products from our folks, build up our community, invest in our community, develop our community, and stop selling out our community. Stop allowing everybody else but folks who have our interests in mind to come in and take full advantage, and we kind of open a door for them and help them in and tell them where to go to take advantage of us, because we've been conditioned to do that. We need to stop that. We need to be protecting our community. We need to be looking out for each other. We need to be working together. And as a result, we'll build stronger and we will grow. And with that being said, the PIC Television Network is a key component to make sure that we're able to rise up by providing an education, inspiration, access, and giving people the opportunity to be great. So thank you.
You know, amazing. My son, Stephen Evans, is in Hollywood, California. They out there watching. We are on literally all over the place, and people need to hear the message that we have today. We're talking about reconnecting the generations. There is a disconnect. When I look at so many people today, even in the midst of social media, you know, I'm gonna stay on this for a minute, because social means dialect we have in there. We grew up having social. From Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, they talked before they text. Before we start texting, we talked. We met at a coffee shop. We sat around the table eating together. You know, we knew all of our family members. Aunt Ruth, Philadelphia, Ringo Street, Aunt Una, Durham, North Carolina, Ridge Avenue. You know, we knew our cousins, Chucky, Darlene, Poo Poo. You know, we knew all of our family members. You know, KK. You know, now today we have a generation that, because of this device right here, that people touch 800 times a day. And is it controlling us, or we controlling it? And is it out of control? Because of the fact that, you know, we are social beings. God made us to socialize. We're supposed to keep the generation alive. We are our brother's keeper, Allison. We have to reconnect this generation, you know, because of the fact that you're my brother, Robert, all the way from Colombia, half across the world, but you're my brother. You're my brother, Campbell, from the islands. You're my brother. You're my sister, Allison, all the way from London, England. We're connected because God wants us to remember who we are and what we have and where we come from. Brother Campbell, I'm going to go back to you, man, because when you told me you're going to go get your mom, and drive up to New Jersey and get her stuff and bring her here to DC. You and your wife together with my godson. Most people, when they get old, man, put them in a nursing home. They can do better than what we can. Put them in a home where they can get the care and everything that they really need. But what made you say, "That's my mom"? If anybody gonna be by her side and she wants to be with me, she don't have to call my name twice. I'm gonna be right there if she needs me. I don't see that today. When I was in college and my mother and father, before they went to heaven, I said they will never have to go in a nursing home as long as I'm alive, because I grew up, they took care of me. Now I was feeling that it's my time to take care of them. Campbell, do you feel the same way, bro? And then I'm gonna go to Allison and Robert and ask the same question.
It wasn't even a question about where my mother was going to go. It was that was just the deal. That was it. So I can't even imagine what sense would it make that my mother would be in a nursing home. I just don't understand. That doesn't compute to me. I wouldn't. It was just natural. So it wasn't a question. As my mother's getting older, where should she go? That was the question. Is she going to go with my brother in Florida? Is she going to go with my sister in the Poconos? Or is she going to go, with me? And we did Florida for a little bit. And she was like, don't want to really do Florida. So it's too hot, muggy, it didn't work out. Poconos is the Poconos. It's cold. It gets cold. The bears float around the Poconos. So I was like, okay, so we just make arrangements so that you can come live with me. It wasn't a question. It was what had to be done. So there was no confusion or anything about that. And Allison, you want to jump in? Because there's no question for me. It's just what it is.
I'm an only child, so my mother has no choice. she is going to be with me, and that is the end of that. It's when about 5 days before the whole world shut down with COVID, I had moved. My mother was supposed to come and help me. She was only going to be with me for a couple of weeks, so that to help me move, get settled in. COVID hit. That was March. My mother was with me right through to May. She came back to be with me from in October, was with me again. In fact, she's still with me now as we speak. She's not going home until the end of August. And it's not because my mother needs care, because my mother's only just turned 70. My mother's still very sprightly and active. But my mother knows that basically, and my mother's watching, so she knows. So this is just reinforcing the point. She knows there is no choice. Where I go, you go. And even now, when I travel, sometimes I travel around the world for work, my mother's right there with me. Pretty much, if you know me, you know my mother. Everybody has met and knows and spoken to my mother, whether it be by Zoom, telephone, or seen her in person. And I don't understand. And if we look at, again, going back to culturally, if we look at in the African countries, in the Caribbean islands, and I'm sure even in Latin America, there weren't nursing homes for our elders to go into. Right. They didn't exist. It's we moved to the UK, we moved to the US, and so that's where this nursing home thing even came from. It was not in our vocabulary or our consciousness to even think about putting our parents in nursing homes, because culturally that's not what we do. So, Robert, what do you think? What do you make of that? You're on mute, Robert. Okay. But it's interesting, something that you said as well, though, Ian, about social media and things like that. And as I said earlier, I had to put my hand up and I had to admit, I was one that I watched the news, read the newspaper, and believed that's it. All the kids are bad. They're the ones out there all the crime, because that's all that I knew and that I saw, apart from my little bubble of young people that I interacted with. But then, as I said, once I got involved in mentoring programs, I realized, hold on a second, they're feeding me a narrative.
Yeah.
And it's for all of us to be aware and to know, hold on a second, they are feeding us a narrative. Yes, there are some out there creating havoc, but that's the minority. And that's what we need to remember and hold on to.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
great.
I think that Dr. Evans, this idea of creating this network, you're using this tool that is causing havoc for good. I mean, this kind of content is something we sorely miss. I see my kids sometimes on a tablet and they're playing with some weird games that I don't understand, and or watching some weird YouTube videos. And I'm like, okay, that's enough of that. They need to see stuff like this. They need to hear what their parents, what their uncles, there are stories that they can use to fortify them in the future. So I think content is king. I think this is the right step forward. And honestly, to have a network back in 2000 or 2005 would have been a very difficult situation. I mean, there was a monopoly on that. So thank God this opportunity is available. And now, Dr. Evans, you have us being worldwide. I'm here with a beautiful smart sister from England, Brother Ian Campbell, and yourself, and we're dialoguing, and people from around the world are watching us. I know que mi gente en Guatemala, mi gente en Colombia, mi gente en Bolivia, mi gente en Salvador, mi gente en Panamá, mi gente en Nueva York, mi gente por todo el mundo nos están mirando. Entonces, es importante que nosotros sigamos este proceso. So to me, it's important that we continue this dialogue and continue creating content and feeding our minds and our bodies and our souls the right messages.
Yeah,
And there's no way mom's going to nursing home either in Rob's house, because she's having no parts of it.
No, my mom is the most energetic, the most lively, the most brilliant. She had her 82nd birthday, and so funny because she's like, no, her 80th birthday. She said, "Okay, Rob, I want a birthday party. I want to be huge. I want a mariachi band, and I want to have a special dress." So I bought her dress in Dubai. Got her a dress in Dubai, the perfect dress. She wore that dress for the party, and the party lasted till 2 a.m. And she was dancing the whole time. We cleaned the hall up, and then at 3 a.m, she said to me, "Oh, I have some friends coming at 9 a.m. to the house because they're coming from Philadelphia, and they're coming." I was like, "Mom, we just party till 3 a.m. You have friends coming at 9 a.m. It's the energy level is up high." So my mom and I are just a team.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm listening to a chat that Doreen's saying, I took care of my mom and her home for the last 18 months of her life, and it was a pleasure taking care of mom. And she comes back to say, I wish I had her today to still be taking care of her if I could hear my mother's prayer again. You know, when I see that, it kind of tears me up, you know, because this is what our parents did. They took care of us.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's our time to take care of them. The Bible says, honor your mother and father in your days that belong on the earth. You know, he gives us parents that clothe you, that feeds you, that gives you everything that they have. We had 9 kids, Allison. There was 9 of us. I was the baby boy. Kenny, Bobby, Junior, Esther, Darlene, Edie, Elaine, Brenda. We had a whole big family, and all of us in one house. And I don't remember missing a meal. My mom would make sure that everybody eats before she eats. Mm-hmm. We had hot dogs and beans, and I would think it was steak and potatoes, man. You know, I didn't care. My mother would feed us. My dad would feed us, and they gave the best that they had until they went to heaven. And how in the world could I not speak to my mom 4 months? If somebody looking at this in Father's Day coming up, call your dad, man. If I would give this network up, I would give all the money I got, and I would give everything up just to have my mother here one more day, to spend one more day with mom, one more day with dad. My parents are gone, you know, and I believe in keeping their legacy alive by doing the things that they raised me to do. Integrity and character and love and sharing. I was sharing on the last broadcast that when my son Stephen and Amos was 6, 7 years old, I took them to McDonald's and bought them a Happy Meal. And they were so happy. They had the fries in there and they're getting ready to eat. And we stopped at a stoplight and I saw a homeless man. I said, give that to them. And they said, no. I said, give them the food. I said, Dad, this is mine, Dad. I said, no, give that to that homeless man right now. Roll down the window. I gave it to them. They gave them their Happy Meals, both of them. And they started crying. They were boohooing, crying. I said, listen, we're going to go back. I went back and I told them, order anything you want. I said, that man don't have food. Fast forward to 2019. My son calls me from Hollywood, California, who's watching now. And he said, Dad, guess where I'm at? It's Christmas Eve. I said, where you at, Steve? He said, I'm under a bridge. Under a bridge in Hollywood? Man, you live in lodge. What you? No, I'm giving away clothes to the homeless. Because that's what you taught me to do, Dad. I'm giving away some of my shoes to the homeless people. I was tore up. I was tore up, you know, when I heard that, Allison. My son is out there he's out there with superstars. My son's, when you say Stephen Campbell been online with me, my son is out there with J-Lo and, you know, Post Malone and Tonight Show and music. And he's writing a music program right now with John Legend. So he don't have to be under a bridge. But here it is, Christmas Eve, he's under the bridge, giving away his clothes and food and giving away his shoes to the homeless people. That's what it's all about. That's reconnecting. Allison, when you hear stories like this, does that give us hope?
It does give us hope, because basically what you have done is taught your son how to be. You've taught your son compassion. You've taught your son compassion. You taught your son to be mindful of those less fortunate. You have instilled values in your son. And reading that message from Doreen that popped up on the screen, it's interesting that you said, Dr. Evans, that it got you teary, because it got me teary. The reason that it got me teary, because Doreen is actually my mother. So she's referring to my grandmother that she took care of. And so what my mother did by doing that, my mother taught me how to treat her in her twilight years. And that's the thing that we need to remember. We are setting the example for those coming behind us. So whatever it is that we are doing, we need to remember what we are doing is what we are teaching them. I heard a quote a few years ago, and it says, your children may not necessarily do what you say, they will do what you do. And so that is the thing that is so key. We need to remember and focus on, you know, that expression, do what I say, not what I do. It's interesting that we say that, but the reality is absolutely the reverse. They don't do what we say, they do what they see us doing. And that is one of the things that we need to remember. So we need to instill these things into our young people, like you did, Dr. Evans, with your children at a young age, with something as simple to us as a Happy Meal. Because if you think about what a Happy Meal costs, I'm sure I throw away more than what a Happy Meal costs on foolishness that I've seen online, that I go and some trinket, something that I bought online, you know. And if we're honest, I'm sure we've all done it at some point. If it was a Happy Meal, $6, there's sometimes if you got a 50 or a 20 and you break it, forget it.
It's gone.
because the rest, it's gone. And so that's what I mean when I say that I'm sure we've thrown away more than that on foolishness. But that, if you think about what the cost of that Happy Meal was back then, and the cost of what your son is doing now, there is, it's priceless. There is no cost. And so that is basically, when I hear that, it just makes me think about, if you think about it, look at what the cost of a Happy Meal has done in the life of a young man now in his 20s in Hollywood, rubbing shoulders and working with celebrities, but at Christmas time under a bridge, giving away clothes. You can't put a price on that lesson. And that is key in what we need to bring back and reconnect with our young people, because I've seen children, you look on social media, and I've seen babies in designer things that they literally are going to spit up on now, and it's not going to fit them tomorrow.
Right.
And when I look at that, and I'm not saying don't put your children and your babies in nice things. I am not saying that. However, when we look at the value that we are putting on certain things, we are not putting that same value anymore on feeding the homeless, clothing the homeless, doing charitable work, philanthropic work, and things like that. It starts with something so simple and basic as telling your child, give your Happy Meal to that man, give your Happy Meal to that woman, so that we are planting the seeds of compassion and empathy into our young people, that they can then pass down to their children and their children and their children and the generations to come. So back to you, Ian.
I think that lesson that Dr. Evans passed on is something that, if you watch children and watch them play, watch them share, and they do things that it just blows my mind. I love going to the playground, because that's where I truly see who's going to develop into who. That playground is where you watch your child develop in front of your very eyes. You teach them how to be compassionate. You teach them how not to knock over the smaller children. The reason why, because they're smaller. You see the big kids that will pause when the little kids are there. That playground dynamic is quite amazing to see. And the lessons that we teach our young ones and the example that we are, that's what it is. So is there hope? I believe so, because when you look at those 12, 16, 18-year-olds, and you stop them and give them a word, so say, hey, watch out for the little one. They pause, oh, I'm sorry. They may jump over them, but you're like, hey, be careful. It's people are afraid to talk to them, to engage them, to have a conversation with them. And watching the media, when I went to the playground for the first time with my child, I saw people look like they just came out of jail, jailhouse tattoos, pants sagging. And I was like, wow, the media tells me that these guys don't take care of their kids. And so I started talking to these guys, and they were like, yeah, my neighbor, she's a single mom. She gets home at 6 o'clock. So I pick up her son from school, and I take her and her son and my little one to the playground together for a couple hours until she gets home. I'm like, wow, these stories that you will never hear, that we are actually taking care of our children, looking out for our neighbors, and doing the things that we need to do, are not played out. And if you hear something enough, no matter how sharp you are, if that's your reality, day in, day out, for years on end, you will start to believe it. Mm-hmm. And that's what the media does on every single channel that you watch. It's not about, oh, Ian is helping out his neighbor with food or with clothes, or with Stephen's donating clothes to the homeless, or Rob is doing things for the elderly. That's not what you hear. What you hear is murder, drug, murder, rape, murder, and it's all about us. And when you look at folks that are doing other things that don't look like us, oh, he was mentally distraught, he had lost his job, and the guy was going through a very hard time. We are going through hard times all the time, but we're not given the same compassion, benefit of the doubt opportunities. So it's up to us to create them within our communities and not allow the social media or the traditional media to continue to program us so that we look at our brothers and say, man, this guy must be a thug. This kid was locked up at 12 for being not doing anything at all, just being a kid. Locked up at 12. Don't have a belt because that's why his pants sagging. He can't afford a belt. He can't get a job. He can't get education. He has the opportunity to develop, to work and do trades and use his hands. That's the way how he makes his living. So he may not look like the ideal person. Ask him, talk to him, ask them their story. Their story is very, very similar. We all spend time being harassed by the police. Some of us go to jail. Some of us go to prison. Some of us get detained. Some of us are being taken downtown because the system is designed that we are the threat because we're used to maintain the prison industrial complex, to maintain their stock ratings, maintain the products that these organizations create and sell to corporations. We have to look beyond the surface and scratch it and really figure out why we target it. Why is it that in the Jewish community, the police don't patrol the Jewish community, they patrol around the Jewish community because the Jewish have their own police patrolling their community? Why is it that we have police in the neighborhoods that we live in that are not from the neighborhoods, but are from West Virginia, are from North in the Pennsylvanias, are from South Carolina? They don't know what's going on in those communities, so they're taught, arm yourself at all times, shoot first. They're not doing community relations. They're not looking to understand what's going on. All they see is a threat. So if we're not doing a better job to police ourselves, to secure our communities, to invest, to grow and develop our communities, we're going to have a hard time. And instead of making $1 million and moving to Potomac or to where the Joneses live, we need to take that very same money, instead of buying a house for $1 million and now we're broke, we bought a house for $250,000. We now have $750,000 we can invest and develop and do things in our community. We can be a much more successful person in our communities that's low income and help develop it and build it so it can grow, rather than competing in their society that we're just not a part of and will never be a part of because it's not designed for us to integrate and be a part of their society. We need to use Juneteenth as a catalyst for growth, investment, development, for coming together, for unity, and to change the narrative that is being played over and over and over and over and over again in mainstream society and on social media. With that, I yield.
That's an amazing facts, and we want to thank everybody for tuning in. With the chats, our social media is blowing up, and we thank you for tuning in. Again, YouTube is with us, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, wherever you're watching, even listening. We have a way that we're pushing this into the direction of Alexa. The world that we live in is just an amazing time, but we have to remember the old landmark. We can't forget those who paved the way. We got to give homage to our aunties and uncles. Even though they may be in the grave, let's keep their legacy alive. Let's connect the generations. We have to give something back. When you robbing somebody or breaking in the house or stealing from somebody, that's your brother. Mm-hmm. That's your sister. We're family. So we who are older, who live down to the timelines of our 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s, realize that the greatest prayer is to say, thank you. That's the greatest prayer. Thank you for life, health, strength, just to breathe another breath. The greatest prayer is thank you. And how dare we go through a day without just saying thank you? Thank you, Lord, for waking me up. Thank you for giving me my right mind, the activities of my limbs, blood running warm in my veins. And the greatest blessing is life. It's life. You may not have all you want to have. You may not be all you want to be, but you have life. You survived COVID. The greatest blessing is life. The greatest prayer is thank you. We're so happy. Again, all of these comments coming in. We must get back to the table, dialogue, and begin against, again, otherwise, and this is generation following us that will, wow. Yeah, that's true. We gotta get back. It's our time to get back. You know, we have a rich legacy. People are tuning in and popping in with these chats from all over. You guys are doing this wonderful job. It's going to take programs like this. We're not here to entertain you. We're not here to make you laugh and jump around. That's another show. We're here to educate you. We're here to talk about this series. This is part 2 of reconnecting our generation. We have to go to a commercial break, and we're going to come right back right after this, and we're going to close out with some final words. And don't go nowhere. Stay tuned.
Juneteenth is an annual holiday celebrated on June 19th, commemorating the end of slavery in the United States. It has been around for over 150 years. It all began on June 19th, 1865, when Union soldiers arrived in Galveston, Texas, with news that the Civil War was over and that enslaved peoples were to be freed. Even though the Emancipation Proclamation had been issued more than 2 years earlier, it had little effect at the time of signing, as news of the order had not reached the enslaved population of Texas. The first major Juneteenth celebration was held in Austin, Texas in 1867. By 1872, the celebration had been added to a calendar of public events, and that year, black leaders in Texas purchased 10 acres of land to celebrate Juneteenth. Juneteenth was informally celebrated up until 1980, when Texas became the first state to proclaim Emancipation Day as an official state holiday. Today, nearly all 50 states mark Juneteenth as either a date of observance or a state holiday. Over the years, Juneteenth has been celebrated by Black Americans all over the country in many different ways. On many occasions, an assortment of red foods and drinks are prepared to symbolize perseverance, but celebrations can range from small family gatherings and backyard barbecues to grand festivals and parades featuring exhibitions of African American music, literature, dance, and more. More can be done to further support Juneteenth, such as local and state governments formally recognizing the history and culture of the day, and companies and local businesses incorporating it into their calendars even before it becomes a national holiday. Ultimately, Juneteenth is much more than a holiday. It is a day for Black Americans to celebrate freedom, culture, and heritage, and for everyone to recognize and commemorate this pivotal moment in American history.
Hey everybody, we're back here to close out our final segment on part 2 of our segment tonight. That we're talking about a powerful, powerful topic: reconnecting the generations. I believe that we can do it if we only put time in and invest in education, invest in information, invest in inspiration, and a little entertainment is okay. This is what we do on the Pick TV network. We want to showcase all the talent, gifts, and abilities that people have, but we want to connect our next generation to let you know that you can do what you can do in your mind, not just with your body. You don't have to showcase the outward, because if you have it on the inside, what's on the inside can show even more than what's on the outside. Because greater is he that's in you than he that's in the world. Beauty starts within. So I want to thank our panel today who did an excellent job. We have, again, all of these comments popping in, people giving these great words of love all over the place. It's just an amazing blessing. I want to thank all of our guests who watching with us from Brazil, France, Argentina, Nicaragua, United Kingdom, Colombia. Hey, we got my man in the house. Rob, Colombia is in the house. My prayer. Mexico, thank you. Guatemala, United Kingdom, Germany, Panama, Ireland, Peru, Chile, United States. We got London, England in the house tonight. We have Allison is in here. We have the islands, the Caribbean islands with Mr. Campbell. And we're going to continue to do what we have to do to reconnect the generations. If you want to be a part of our panel talk, please just send us some information, and we'll love to connect with you. All you have to do is to send it to the Pick TV Network at gmail.com, and then check us out. We have breaking news right now. Our website is up, thepicktvrnetwork.com. Our website is already up now. You can check us out anywhere around the world and be a part of what we're doing. We'd love for you to help us to do what we do in this big talk show. We're going to get ready for part 3, reconnecting the generation. I want Robert, you got a lot of people watching you, man, and from Colombia. You got to say something in that language to say thank you for watching and continue to help us to reconnect the generation. Come on, Rob, say it to him in that term.
Muchas gracias, gente de Colombia, México, Puerto Rico, la República Dominicana, todas partes de Latinoamérica. Estamos agradecidos que ustedes están aquí con nosotros y que sigan mirando este programa porque es importante. Thank you to all my people from all over Latin America, Colombia, Brazil, Peru, El Salvador, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, New York. Happy to have you guys with us. Keep watching, because I think your voice is important and your ears are important. It's important for us to get feedback from you guys as to what you want to hear. I think one thing I want to leave with you guys is this. We have to focus on service. We have to focus on service. We as human beings are made to serve, and we need to, as a family, serve our fellow man. And I think in so doing, we're going to find ourselves again. I think that's the only way we can find ourselves. If we can connect with that need to serve and to improve people's lives, I think that's something we can do to reconnect with our family and our extended family, our human family. So thank you guys for watching us tonight. And I want to send a big shout out to my man, Ian Campbell, Dr. Evans, Sister Joyce, and I'm out.
Hey, thank you, man. We got to get you back on and keep talking to our people from all over the world. This is what we do on the Pick TV Network. Hey, I got to get Allison, because you all the way from London, England. You got to give a shout out to everybody who's watching in London, England. You got a lot of friends going to be watching this. You got to give a shout out to young England. And thank you again for being a part of the Pick TV Network business team, family. She's going to be doing shows on here. She's going to be doing some interviews with us. I'm excited about having Allison to be on our team for the PIC TV network. Allison, come on, give a shout out to everybody who's watching in London, England.
First of all, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Evans and Ian, for having me tonight. And thank you for all of you in London that have stayed awake, because I know it's late. It's like gone 5 o'clock in the morning now. I appreciate you. I love you. I thank you. And just in closing, we are our brother's keeper. Our brother is not just those that are connected to us via blood. Our brother is our community. Our brother is our neighbor. Our brothers are our village. And the more we have these conversations, the more these conversations can be had. Thank you so much.
Hey, and come on and close us up with your final words, Brother Campbell. Come on, close us out.
I just want to thank you for continuing to keep us focused, Dr. Evans, continuing to bring new technology, new systems, new approaches to make the PIC network even better than what it is. You know, we're here because you stay true to your vision and your mission, and you have continued to be more innovative than and using technology that is present with us right now than, you know, in the past we had different technology. You were on the television, on DC television network, we were on the radio, but you found a way to use the technology to transform all that into the streaming network that is now on the radio, TV, tablet, cell phone, watch, you name it. So we can reach everybody simultaneously with the website around the world from just a cell phone. And it's an equalizer. You know, we're here to level the playing field. Being able to tell our story, being able to level the playing field, being able to have people from all walks of life tell their story, share their inspiration, share their program, share their vision, their creativity. You are, you know, doing something that the magnitude of it when the story is written 100 years from now is going to be, well, you know, it started with that gave me a door and a window that led to this, that created this change in this movement. So we're at the tip of the spear, and the point where everything we do from here henceforth has the capacity to change the direction of, I'd say the next, you know, 2 or 3 generations. Because as we move into the Juneteenth, to understand the significance of Juneteenth and with the role that we're playing leading up to that, and the amount of people we're able to reach, you know, Roku has 54 million subscribers. The internet has, you know, everybody has 94% of the planet pretty much have a cell phone. And so we're able to pretty much reach everyone, almost everyone in the world. And the message that we want to convey is that we have to take control of the message for ourselves and our people and our future and our generations to come. We have to be able to use this platform to educate people on who they are, where they come from. We did not originate in slavery. Black people, melanated people, African people, people from the Caribbean, we did not come out of slavery. We did not start in slavery. You know, we were here thousands and thousands and thousands of years before, and all they have to do is look at the history books to prove it. It doesn't take much. We have the internet in our hands. The history books tell us exactly who we are. There's a quote I remember that says, "The deeper they dig, the darker." Something to the effect of, the deeper they dig, the more evidence about who we are comes to light. So it's not just in Africa, it's in South and Central America, it's in the Caribbean, it's in Europe, it's here, it's everywhere. So there's more than enough evidence to inform people that Christopher Columbus was not the first person who came to the New World. And it's not a new world. People are already here. Yeah, so our history is available to us. We just have to believe it. We have to take hold of it. We have to tell it. Don't let our grandparents and great grandparents pass away with this knowledge that they have in their experience. We still have people that, two people are still alive from, one or two people still alive from the Tulsa riots. We have people that's been alive since slavery that were actually slaves. We need to sit down and talk to those people. The pandemic has taken away so many of our leaders. And they've taken so much information with them and they're gone because no one sat down and wrote it down. No one sat down with them with a camera and recorded it. We can't allow that to continue to happen. We have to take the time to meet with our leaders and just get the information from them. But over the last 3 or 4 years, we've lost so many people that have brought us to this point through civil rights, through slavery, through riots, through all kind of dealings that we had to go through. We can't take it for granted that that the efforts that they put in brought us to this point. And we're here now, and we now have the opportunity to use the PIC TV network, use Juneteenth as a catalyst to surge us forward. We need to take full advantage of it, and looking forward to the next chapter. Thank you, Doc.
Hey, thank you. It's amazing when I hear you guys on its history. And speaking of Juneteenth, we having a big expo, our business expo. You can be a part of this expo, especially if you have a Black business, by calling 202-505-2837. We're having this big expo, and again, you need to be a part of this because we're going to go back and support African American businesses on Juneteenth. We have to give something back, so we want you to know we're going to be airing this on our PIC TV network, Business World Channel. Those who have products and services that you want to air on television during Juneteenth, we have a special deal that we have on. So go to our website, get some more information. All you have to do is to go to the PIC TV network.com, PICTVnetwork.com, and see our website and get the information. And also, if you want to become a member of the PIC TV network club, we have a club channel. You can get shots out to your mothers or fathers on Father's Day or birthday. We let you come on TV, bring the kids around, and say special words during special holidays, all on the PIC TV network. This is what we do. It's your network. The PIC stands for the People's Investment Channel. That means you. And we're so happy for all of you who've been watching. Thank you for your time, everybody. Stay safe, stay blessed until we come back on next time. We'll see you on the PIC TV network. So long, everybody.
Have a good night. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Juneteenth is an annual holiday celebrated
Juneteenth. It's a holiday often called the Black 4th of July. It's celebrated with cookouts, festivals, historical reenactments, and it's one of the most important days in African American history. Juneteenth celebrates the end of slavery in the United States. You see, the U.S. Declaration of Independence stated that all men were created equal, but this didn't apply to black slaves. The move to end slavery didn't happen until Abraham Lincoln issued a law in 1863, almost 100 years later. But the news took more than 2 years to reach all parts of the country. The state of Texas was the last to find out. On June 19, 1865, 250,000 slaves were freed in Texas, marking independence for all Americans.